12-1. The world ended not with fire, but silence. Cities turned to bone, skies thick with ash, and the last human voices buried beneath the ruins. Jack Moreau had survived everything: orbital strikes, mass purges, even the betrayal of his own command. He was supposed to die with Earth, but then she came. 7 feet of silver skin and genetic precision, the alien girl stepped into the ashes with eyes that had never seen war the way he had. She called it a mating directive. He called it trespass. What she didn't know was simple: humanity doesn't submit, it retaliates. The signal. Jack Moreau hadn't heard a clean signal in months. Only static, coded pulses, and the occasional automated distress loop from dead stations. But this one was different. It sliced through the interference at 0437 hours, a whisper on the long-range band, buried beneath layers of Valari encryption. He decoded it in less than 10 minutes using old Martian war codes and a hand-built decryptor built from scavenged AI cores. What it revealed wasn't a military directive nor an invasion notice. It was an invitation to surviving human DNA-class operatives. Genetic compatibility confirmed. Initiation of Union Protocol Phase 1 authorized. Rendezvous coordinates, Sector 9. Sector 9. Goddamn. That was 2 clicks from the old Detroit Wastes enemy territory now, full of rogue drones, Valari sentries and worse. But Jack knew one thing: someone was coming, and they wanted something more than surrender. Jack wasn't a soldier anymore. Not technically, but the routines never left. He packed light combat harness, plasma sidearm, 2 thermal charges, and an outdated motion scanner. His worn jacket still bore the patch of the 17th Resistance Division, even though that division hadn't existed in over a year. The Valari had seen to that. He checked the perimeter of the underground bunker, motionless, dead wind sweeping across the snow-blasted ruin of Detroit. The skyline was jagged with the black skeletons of towers, and above them hung a hazy red sun. The drop came at midday. A single Valari craft broke orbit like a knife through tissue, sleek, obsidian, humming with gravitic resonance. Not a warship, a diplomatic courier. Jack watched through his sniper scope from the edge of a collapsed monorail pylon. No drones, no secondary craft, just one ship, lowering itself to the cracked concrete with disturbing precision. Then the ramp opened. She walked out like a monarch from a dream. 7 feet tall, lithe skin shimmering with the reflective hue of moonlight. Her eyes were bioluminescent, slitted like a predator's. A halo of data streams hovered around her as she approached the clearing, 1 step at a time. Jack already had the scope trained on her skull. 1 shot, that's all it would take. But something made him wait. The voice came through his headset a second later. Human male, identified. Jack Moreau, Serial 17R. I am Listhar, 2nd genome of the Valari Nexus. We are here to begin the union. She didn't flinch, didn't scan, didn't even bring a weapon. Jack lowered the rifle a fraction. What the hell does that mean? You are to mate with me. The bunker smelled of rust and stale water. Listhar ducked slightly to pass through the entryway, her presence too large for the space, too alien. She moved like liquid metal and stared at Jack with unnerving stillness. He paced in front of her, trying to decide if this was a trap or just a new kind of war. Mating protocol, Jack said, eyes narrowed. You show up in the middle of my wasteland after your species turned half the planet into cinder, and now you want what? A date? Listhar didn't blink. We require genetic merging. Your DNA exhibits uncommon neuroresilience, aggression thresholds, and post-cataclysmic adaptation. Our species must evolve. You are compatible. You mean useful. Yes, Jack laughed once bitterly. You've got no idea what humans do to things that try to own us. Her head tilted. Clarify, ownership is not implied. Reproductive priority is all that matters. And what if I say no? She paused. That possibility was not anticipated. That night, Jack dreamed of fire, of battles fought beneath the Martian arcologies, of screaming corridors filled with plasma light, of his brother dying with a Valari blade through his chest. When he woke, Listhar was standing at the edge of the bunker, watching him. I require understanding, she said. You're gonna need more than that. He led her out across the ruin the next day, through the frost-bitten remnants of a collapsed human city. Here, statues had been melted into slag, monuments cratered to rubble. Jack showed her the names on the walls, the fallen, the burned, the forgotten. You think this is about biology, he said. This is about blood. She was silent. Then she reached out and touched the wall. "We have no monuments, no shit. They were ambushed 2 nights later. Scavenger war beasts, half human, half feral, drugged-out mutants from the underlands." Jack had seen them before. This was no longer a world for clean battle lines. Lithar reacted instantly, her body pulsing with kinetic shielding as claws and shrapnel flew. But she didn't kill them. She only disabled. "You don't understand," Jack growled, yanking a blade from his belt. "We don't leave threats behind." He made the final kill himself, blood spraying across the cracked concrete. Lithar watched in silence. Then quietly, "You choose violence even when unnecessary." Jack stepped closer, eyes burning. "It's always necessary. You brought war. Now you'll learn how to survive it." She blinked slowly. "Teach me." They returned to the bunker days later, battered and changed. Jack tossed down a scavenged Vilari transmitter, cracked open from one of the old drone relays. Inside it, a fragment of data, a warning beacon. "They're coming," Jack muttered. "A full Vilari oversight fleet. You're the first wave, and they'll come looking." Lithar turned toward him. "Then I cannot return." "Damn right you can't." She hesitated. "I want to stay." Jack looked at her, truly looked. For the first time, she didn't seem like an emissary. She seemed uncertain. "You're not here for war anymore, are you?" "No." "Then what are you here for?" She stepped closer, to become something new. Cliffhanger. But even as Jack stared into her alien eyes, a new signal pulsed across the encrypted band, this time not from space. It was human, and it was calling for help. Next chapter, the Union Protocol. The Union Protocol. The Union Protocol. The fire crackled low in the bunker's central chamber, casting long shadows along the reinforced concrete walls. Lithar sat cross-legged near the heat, unnaturally still, her luminescent eyes reflecting the flicker with alien serenity. Jack stood at the console, arms crossed, studying the new signal that had arrived just before nightfall. It bore old Earth military encryption, almost too old. "You recognize the pattern?" Lithar asked without looking at him. "Yeah," Jack muttered. "It's a 17R priority code, my unit's old ghost signature." He paused, jaw clenched. "But that unit's dead. Buried under the Detroit arcology." She tilted her head. "Then this is deception. Or bait," Jack said. "Maybe someone got their hands on our comms logs. Or maybe someone made it out. The transmission's coordinates were only 20 kilometers east, on foot, 2 days through hostile terrain." But something about the voice hidden beneath the static gnawed at him. Familiar, raspy, a whisper he hadn't heard since before the orbital strike. His brother, Kane, dead for 18 months. Jack turned to Lithar. "We're going." They left at dawn, trudging across frozen wastelands where old Detroit's underbelly was now exposed to the sky, collapsed sewer lines, ruptured metro tunnels, and frost-caked roads split like shattered glass. Drones whirred in the upper atmosphere, Vilari recon models still sweeping the surface. Lithar moved like a phantom through it all. No footsteps, no breathing, only the hum of her internal systems and the occasional flare of her sensory nodes. Jack found it unnerving. She wasn't human. She was too efficient. "Why do you follow me?" he asked that night as they made camp under the bones of a collapsed freeway. She didn't hesitate. "Because I was sent to." "Not good enough." Lithar turned her gaze toward the stars. "My genome stream was cultivated to understand human resilience. But the more I learn, the less I understand. You are violent, and yet you mourn your dead. You destroy, but you endure. Your species is paradox. Welcome to the club. I do not wish to return to the Nexus." Jack raised a brow. "Why?" "I feel things I was not designed to feel. That is forbidden." He stared at her. "Fear?" She looked at him then, and for the first time, just for a moment, he saw something human in her expression. "No," she whispered. "Hope." The ruins thickened near the coordinates, once a university campus, now a war-torn graveyard. Jack's motion scanner flickered red. Something was watching. They moved silently through what had once been a research wing. Cracked display panels hung from the ceiling, frozen glass displays, still bearing ancient schematics. Bloodstains marked the walls, long dried. Jack remembered this place, the last fallback point of 17R. "Kane died here," he said quietly. "How?" Lithar asked. "Trying to hold the line. Bought me 10 minutes to escape." He tightened his grip on the rifle. He didn't even scream. The signal pulsed again, this time closer. Jack followed it to the sub-level stairs, where the air grew colder and the walls more intact. As they descended, Lithar stopped him. Movement. One life form, not Vilari. They reached the server core room. A man sat against the far wall, wrapped in torn resistance armor, gaunt and half-frozen. He looked up and Jack's heart stopped. "Kane," the man coughed. "You took your damn time." He was older now, thinner, but it was him, Kane Moreau, somehow alive. "How the hell? They left me. Vilari Patrol took the others. I went dark, hid in the maintenance tunnels for months. Thought you were dead." Jack dropped to one knee. "I buried a boot with your name on it." Kane laughed hoarsely. "Bet it smelled awful." Lysthar stood back, analyzing silently. Jack noticed it. Problem: she didn't respond immediately. "He is not fully human anymore." Jack turned. "What?" Lysthar stepped forward, scanning Kane again. Foreign material embedded in his bloodstream. Vilari biochips. They experimented on him. Kane didn't deny it. "They turned me into a relay. Thought I could be useful. But I burned out half their tech when I escaped." Jack stepped back. "Jesus, Kane." Kane smiled bitterly. "We all change, brother." That night, Kane told them everything. The Vilari weren't just observing anymore. They were adapting. Their next wave would be hybrid, genetically modified to handle Earth's chaos. Blending tactics, assimilation, not annihilation. "They're going to offer peace," he said. "And when we agree, they'll own us from the inside." Lysthar looked sickened. "This is not sanctioned protocol." "Doesn't matter," Kane said. "You're part of it. They'll hunt you too." The next morning, they found the transmit array Kane had rigged, a scavenged satellite dish repurposed to jam Vilari comms in a 40-kilometer radius. It gave them time, but not forever. "We can fight back," Jack said. Kane laughed. "You and your alien girlfriend." "She's not my—" Lysthar interrupted softly. "I am here by choice." Kane raised a brow. "Well, damn. Jack, only you could seduce a species that doesn't even believe in sex." They trekked back west, all three of them now, but something had changed. Lysthar asked questions at night, not about war, but about love, about songs, about the photographs Jack kept in a rusted tin box, images of a world before it died. She stared at a picture of his mother. "She looks kind," she said. "She was," Jack said. "She used to sing to us during storms. We do not sing. You should learn." One night, Lysthar stood under the stars, practicing the shape of sound. She couldn't mimic a melody, but she tried, and in that frozen dark, her voice glitchy, raw and broken, sang one line: "Though the sky may fall, I remain." Jack looked at her, stunned, and realized he felt something too. But the world wasn't ready for softness. A Vilari recon drone found them 2 days later. It was silent, lethal, programmed to cleanse deviations from the directive. Lysthar didn't hesitate. She stepped between it and the brothers, shielding them with her body. It fired a charged lance. The energy slammed into her side, shorting her shields, frying part of her neural mesh. She screamed, an inhuman, awful sound, and dropped. Jack lunged. He fired 3 shots, each one searing into the drone's core until it collapsed in a heap of metal and circuits. Kane rushed forward. "Is she?" "She's alive," Jack said, panting. "Barely." They carried her back to the bunker. Jack spent hours pulling melted circuitry from her shoulder, patching biotissue with scavenged medgel, and whispering things he didn't understand. He stayed by her side for 3 nights. On the 4th she woke. "I failed," she murmured. "No," Jack said. "You chose. That's what makes you one of us." She looked at him then, wide-eyed, blinking away synthetic tears. "You stayed, always." And that was the moment she knew. She didn't want to return to the Vilari. She wanted to become something new. Cliffhanger. At midnight, Kane returned from the comms deck, his face pale. "We've got a bigger problem," he said. "What?" "I cracked a signal off the Vilari mainnet. They're not just coming back." He threw the datapad onto the table. "They're deploying a Genesis harvester. 3 days from now." Jack froze. A Genesis harvester wasn't a weapon. It was worse. It was an eraser, and it was headed for Earth. Ashes of the old war. Jack had seen what a Genesis harvester could do. He'd watched from orbit as one descended on the Martian colonies. No explosions, no plasma fire, just the slow withering of everything. It turned ecosystems sterile, shut down artificial intelligences, and left nothing but silence behind. A reset device. Biological nullification. Kane's face said it all. This isn't conquest anymore. Jack rubbed a hand over his stubble, eyes fixed on the digital display that pulsed like a countdown to extinction. This is cleanup. They had 72 hours. The harvester had already slipped past Earth's fragmented orbital sensors. No one left alive could mount a planetary defense. No functional satellites. No resistance networks intact. Jack, Kane, and Lysthar were it. 3 ghosts from a war that was supposed to be over. "What's the target?" Jack asked. Kane tapped the coordinates on the pad. The vault. Jack stiffened. The vault wasn't just an AI core, it was the last uncorrupted military command nexus on Earth, buried beneath the Appalachian outlands. It held resistance protocols, weapon blueprints, and the neural ghost backups of thousands of dead tacticians. If the Valari erased that, humanity's last spark of organized survival would go dark. "We have to reach it first," Listhar said. Her voice was still raw from her wounds, but her posture was firm. "We must activate the vault's failsafe." Jack glanced at her. "You sure they didn't reprogram you to help them wipe us out?" Listhar met his gaze, unwavering. "I am no longer Valari. Not fully. I'm something else now. Something I chose to be." They set out within the hour. The journey was brutal. Snowdrifts choked old highways. Shattered bridges forced them to rappel into gorges. Kane nearly lost his leg to a scavenger trap that hadn't rusted out. Through it all, Listhar endured. Jack noticed the tremors in her limbs, the way her systems stuttered in the cold. "You're degrading," he said on the second night. "My shielding was damaged. Repairs are failing." Jack unzipped his thermal jacket and threw it around her. "Then we move faster." Kane watched them from the fire. "You know what this looks like, right?" Jack didn't answer. He didn't have to. On the third day, they reached the edge of vault territory, a buried complex beneath the husk of a mountain town. The entrance was disguised beneath the ruins of an old grocery store. Jack stepped through shattered glass and aisles frozen in time. Behind the meat counter, a biometric scanner blinked red. Jack pressed his palm against it. It scanned, then paused. "Retinal sequence required. Moreau, Kane." Kane stepped forward. The door shuddered open. The vault wasn't a bunker. It was a cathedral to war. Rows of cryocapsules lined the walls, each one labeled with names of fallen resistance fighters. Holographic maps of Earth glowed in midair, showing hot zones, abandoned supply caches, and silent cities. In the center stood a towering cylinder of pulsating blue light, the Command AI core. "Welcome, Commander Jack Moreau," said a voice. Female, smooth, cold. Jack swallowed hard. "Athena, awaiting command input." Kane moved to the terminal. "We need to activate failsafe Omega-3. Prep for orbital threat." The system hesitated. "Threat assessment. Foreign AI presence detected. Valari class." Listhar stepped back as turrets unfolded from the walls. Red lights flared. Targeting systems hummed. "Jack," she whispered. "I know," he muttered. "Athena, override threat classification. Designate Valari unit as allied." Override denied. Turrets aimed. Listhar didn't move. "Let it happen. If this is what must be." Jack drew his pistol, fired into the ceiling. "Athena," he shouted. "Override by emotional override protocol. Directive 13. Silence." Then, override accepted. Classification changed. Valari unit reclassified as chosen. The turrets powered down. Kane stared. That protocol died with the Geneva Accord. Jack didn't look at him. Some things don't die. Inside the vault, they activated the failsafe, a dormant planetary defense grid built into abandoned satellites. It wasn't much, but it could slow the harvester, maybe even stop it, if they timed everything perfectly. There was just one problem. Someone has to control it manually, Kane said, studying the system. The uplink requires direct neural tethering. Once it's live, the operator's brain will burn out in minutes. Jack stepped forward. Listhar grabbed his wrist. "No," he turned. "It has to be me." "No," she repeated, firmer. "I can withstand the neural feedback. My systems will fail, but I will not die. Not immediately." Kane frowned. "You sure about that?" Listhar nodded. "Let me do this. Let me prove I am more than my origin." Jack stared at her. This wasn't strategy anymore. This was choice. Humanity had always fought against extinction, with blood and fire, but now, someone else was offering to bleed for them. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Okay." The tethering process was brutal. Listhar sat in the command chair as thousands of data streams poured into her mind. Her body convulsed. Her skin flickered with corrupted code. Jack and Kane watched helplessly as she screamed, but she didn't stop. Through her, the satellite stirred. Old weapons, long forgotten in the cold silence of orbit, came to life. And then the harvester appeared, a shimmering black sphere in the upper atmosphere, pulsing with annihilation code. It descended slowly, unbothered by gravity, time or resistance. Listhar focused. "Target locked," she whispered, engaging override fire chain. A burst of searing light tore from the sky. Satellites died. The harvester cracked, but didn't stop. Listhar cried out. Her skin blistered with blue fire. Jack stepped forward. "No," she gasped. It's not enough. One more strike. Lysthar, Jack said, kneeling beside her, gripping her hand. Come back. She smiled, tears, real ones, falling. I have learned. Love. And with a final surge she unleashed the last of the power. The sky lit up like a nova. When Jack awoke, the vault was silent. The uplink was shattered. Smoke drifted across the floor. Lysthar lay slumped in the chair, unmoving. He ran to her side. Her chest still rose barely. Her systems flickered. She's alive, Kane whispered. But for how long? Jack took her hand. You did it. Above them, the harvester was gone, burned to nothing, and the stars were visible again. Cliffhanger. 3 days later, a new signal arrived. Encrypted. Human. Kane played it through the console. To surviving Earth enclaves, this is General Armin of the Pacific Resistance Network. We've seen your skyfire. If you're still alive, we're coming to find you. Jack looked at Lysthar's unconscious form. They weren't alone anymore, but the next war was already starting, to be continued in the human way. The human way. Snow fell like ash over the remains of the old vault's surface access point, a crooked steel door half buried in drift and time. Jack stood alone outside, watching the grey light filter through the skeletal branches above the ridge. For the first time in years, the air didn't taste like smoke or blood. But peace wasn't peace. It was the breath before another scream. Inside, Lysthar slept, or the Valari equivalent of it. Her vitals flickered at the edge of survival. Neural degradation had nearly killed her after she manually engaged the orbital strike system. Kane had rigged a custom stasis loop to stabilize her, but it wouldn't last. She needs help, Kane said that morning. Valari systems aren't designed to self-repair without Nexus infrastructure, and last I checked, you blew most of that out of orbit. Jack didn't answer. He was watching a signal again. A new one, this time from the Pacific Resistance Network. It confirmed what he'd feared. The Valari had declared Lysthar a rogue agent, and they were coming to erase her along with anyone who sheltered her. Again, they weren't done with Earth. Not by a long shot. The vault had limits. Its reactors were nearly dry. The cryo-capsules had degraded. Jack and Kane made the call quickly. They'd evacuate. But before they left, Jack needed answers, real ones. He opened Athena's deep core files, the ones locked behind wartime psycho-authorization layers. Inside were fragments of Lysthar's original directive logs, harvested during her uplink. Initiate Union Protocol. Objective: DNA acquisition from high adaptability host species. Emotional mimicry advised. Coercion if necessary. The file chilled him. She'd been sent as a collector, not a diplomat, not a peace agent, a biohunter. And yet, she hadn't completed the directive. She hadn't uploaded the data. She hadn't returned. She'd chosen to stay. Jack closed the file, burned it. They traveled west under nightfall, avoiding Valari recon sweeps, now probing the east coast. Kane led point with his jerry-rigged infrared suppressor. Lysthar was cocooned in a hover sled, oxygen cycling gently over her pale features. They were heading toward a human resistance enclave known as the Orchard, rumored to be one of the last functioning guerrilla war schools. It wasn't just a haven, it was a trial, a proving ground where survivors earned their place, not by bloodline but by will. They call it the burn, Kane said as they approached. Initiation through fire. You're not welcomed unless you survive it. She can't survive that, Jack said. Kane glanced at him. Maybe that's not your choice. The Orchard was nothing like the ruins of the East. Greenhouses had returned to life. Hydro pumps ran through melted snow. Children trained with rifles beside rusted wind turbines. It was war's garden, fed by discipline and loss. General Armin met them at the gates, a thick bearded man in an armored coat, his face lined with leadership no one asked for. She's one of them, Armin said, nodding at Lysthar. She saved Earth, Jack replied. Some of my people still think she killed it. She didn't. She almost died doing it. That doesn't mean she belongs. Jack squared up. Then we'll prove she does. The burn wasn't a ceremony. It was a descent. Candidates were dropped into the Coldwell mines, an old Valari excavation pit, laced with acid gas, rogue machines, and psychological drones designed to break mines. Survivors climbed out after 48 hours. Most didn't. She'll die, Jack said, standing beside Lysthar's stretcher. She has to walk in on her own, Armin said, or she fails. She's too weak. Then she was never meant to fight beside us. That night, Lysthar awoke. Where? Her voice cracked like wind over broken glass. "You're safe," Jack whispered, "but they don't want you here." "Not yet." She looked at him. "Then I must earn it." She entered the pit at dawn. Jack watched her stagger, body still wrecked, armor patched with steel mesh and hope. She didn't look like a warrior, but she walked like one. Kane sat beside Jack at the ledge. "You think she'll make it?" Jack didn't speak. Below, Listhar moved through gas and shadows. Inside the pit, the machines came. Old Velari training constructs, spiders with carbon legs, swarms of data eaters, memory scramblers. Listhar fought them, not with power, but instinct. She used human tactics, guerrilla evasion, dirty tricks Jack had shown her. She was becoming something else. On the second day, Kane pointed at a flare. She made it halfway. Jack was silent. By dusk, she hadn't emerged. Jack stood. "I'm going in." "You'll break the protocol," Kane warned. "They'll ban you both." "Let them." He dropped in. The air was razor-thin. Jack moved fast, heart thundering, mind replaying every tactic Kane had drilled into him during their recon years. He found her collapsed near a collapsed thermal conduit, one leg torn open, blood and coolant leaking in pulses. She looked up. "You broke the rules." "You broke mine first," he said. "I told you not to die." She smiled weakly. "I saw things down here," she whispered. "My own species. They mocked me. That's fear." "No, it was shame." He hoisted her up. Together they climbed. They emerged at dawn, covered in grime and light. The orchard stood silent. General Armin waited at the ridge. He looked at them both, eyes unreadable. "She passed," he said. Jack blinked. "What?" She adapted. Improvised. Even nearly dead, she resisted programming we've been fighting for decades. That's human enough for me. Then to Lostha, "You're one of us now. Don't make us regret it." She bowed. "I won't." Armin walked away. Kane clapped. "You sure know how to pick 'em." That night, Jack sat beside Lostha at the fire, the children training nearby under stars that no longer bore Viari shadows. "Why do you fight?" she asked him. He looked at her. "Because I remember what it was like before we had to, and if peace comes, I'll fight for that too." She nodded, then leaned against his shoulder, softly, like gravity. Cliffhanger, but peace never lasts. Across the orchard, a satellite array blinked to life. Kane's voice came through the comm. "Urgent. Jack, you need to see this. Now." He ran. On the screen was a new signal, Viari code, but not from orbit, from Earth. "This is Nexus Phantom. Unit Lysthar is not terminated. She carries Generation Seed 1. Initiate extraction protocol. They weren't here to destroy her. They were here to take her back. To be continued in Warborn. Warborn. The Nexus Phantom signal was unmistakable, Velari Black Ops frequency, cold and surgical in its phrasing. It pulsed on repeat from an unknown point inside Earth's southern hemisphere, encrypted so heavily that even Kane's decryption AI took hours to crack a fraction of it. But one line made the translation crystal clear. Subject Lysthar carries the Generation Seed. Recovery mission authorized. Termination of collateral permitted. Jack stood over the console, fists clenched. Kane leaned beside him, jaw tight. "They're not after conquest anymore," Kane said quietly. "They want her back." Jack didn't answer, because he already knew. Lysthar sat in the orchard's infirmary, staring at her trembling hands. Bioluminescent veins flickered across her skin, pulsing erratically. The systems that once kept her in harmony were now chaotic, rewiring themselves in ways she couldn't track. "I don't understand," she said as Jack stepped in. "What is Generation Seed?" Jack knelt beside her, holding the tablet Kane had handed him. It showed Velari genetic logs, classified schematics of the Union Protocol. The directive had a secondary phase never revealed to her. "You weren't just meant to collect human DNA," Jack said softly. "You were designed to integrate it." She blinked. "A hybrid." He nodded. "The first of its kind. You weren't supposed to return with samples. You were supposed to become the sample." Lysthar turned away, face pale. "They'll dissect me." "No," Jack said, fire in his voice. "They'll try." The orchard became a fortress overnight. General Armin mobilized the Enclave's full defenses, turrets, EMP mines, sensor drones, and repurposed Velari shield nodes. Scouts were dispatched across the continent to locate the signal source. Kane took over encryption defense, working from a comms tower built atop an old mining silo, but nothing prepared them for what came next. 3 days later, a ripple hit the ground, like thunder from beneath. From the southern skies, sleek black ships broke atmosphere, gliding like razors. But they didn't attack. They landed. Jack and Armin watched from the ridge as 5 spires unfolded, each one a mobile Nexus terminal. Then came the message, broadcast to every device still functioning on Earth. We are the Phantom Division. The asset will be returned. Resistance will be met with cultural nullification. Jack spat on the ground. Cultural nullification. They're threatening genocide, Armin said. Again. But they won't burn the world this time. Jack muttered. They'll erase the idea of it. Jack gathered his war council. Kane, Armin, a tactical AI called Scorch, and Listhar, standing even though her limbs still trembled. Kane outlined the operation. They'll come in squads, not armies. Phantom units don't overwhelm. They isolate, neutralize, and extract. They'll hit our relay points first, then teleport in for the grab. Armin nodded. They'll avoid full-on war. Keep the rest of the planet asleep. Jack turned to Listhar. Can they track you? She nodded. There's a harmonic pulse embedded in my spinal core. They'll lock onto it. Then we remove it. Kane blinked. You're suggesting spinal surgery on a biomechanical entity in the middle of a war zone. Jack looked to Listhar. She only said, do it. The surgery was brutal. Jack held her hand as Kane drilled into her spine with scavenged Valari surgical tools and human nerve stabilizers. Listhar didn't scream. She bit down hard, her body convulsing as the tracker was extracted. It looked like a shard of obsidian, pulsing faintly. Jack crushed it under his boot. But it was too late. They know where we are, Kane said, looking at the screens. We've got 12 hours, Max. Jack stood, looking to the Orchard's defense map. Then we give them a welcome party. The Battle of the Orchard began before dawn. Valari Phantoms descended in cloaked carriers, units of 3, each equipped with personal shields, phase rifles, and destabilizers. They were fast, surgical, almost invisible, but Earth had changed, and so had its people. Turrets flared, explosives lit the treetops, human snipers taught by decades of extinction picked off Phantom scouts. Kane ran ops from the silo, coordinating drone strikes with coded whistle commands used by the old resistance. Listhar fought in the front line, her body glowing with fury. Her attacks were wild, not precise, blending human rage with Valari power. She didn't fight like a commander. She fought like Jack. One Phantom nearly reached the command center. It slipped past the north ridge, invisible, ready to deploy a fold beacon. Jack caught it alone. The fight was savage. The Phantom struck with plasma arcs, slicing Jack's side. Jack responded with a burst shot to the helmet, ripping its visor in half. The Phantom spoke in their native tongue. She belongs to us. Jack growled, blood in his teeth. She chose us. He shot it through the eye. By sunset, the Orchard was still standing, barely. Dozens wounded, Armin unconscious. Kane's comms tower in ruin. But they'd won, except for one thing. Listhar was gone. Jack found her trail, a shimmering energy mark, the Phantom's backup plan, a recall tether. They didn't extract her. She let herself be taken. Jack didn't sleep. He stood in the silo, Kane beside him, tracing the energy wake. She sacrificed herself, Kane said, to end it. Jack shook his head. No. She left a note. He handed Jack a data crystal. Jack activated it. Listhar's voice filled the room. I carry your war inside me now. I go to the Nexus, not as a subject, but as a weapon. I will finish this, not for the Valari, for us, for you. But if I fail, burn the sky. Cliffhanger. The screen lit up again. Kane stared. We've got a lock on her location. Jack loaded his rifle. Where? Kane looked up. The moon. A Nexus fortress, not just orbiting Earth, built into it.